DBD is known for being one of the most toxic communities in gaming, rivaled only by games like Call of Duty, Overwatch, and League of Legends in terms of how nasty players can be to one another. But have you ever asked yourself, what can I do to help? With these helpful tips, you can go to being a shining example of a positive force in the DBD community. Welcome in, guys. My name is Blue Dream 47, and we're going to be going into what you can do to have a positive effect. And it goes without saying that, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. Certainly, if you ask Twitter, they'll happily remind you. But I am not perfect. These are tips that you can use to help. We all can have an impact in other people's lives, not just in the DBD community. We all can have an effect. That goes really well into the first tip, which is it starts with you. DBD is known for being one of the most toxic communities in gaming. The game itself is so frustrating that people lash out at the opposing side, their teammates, or even themselves. It's all too common as well for people to shame other players when they lose, call them bad, or other nasty things. Remember that what you say to someone else over a game will stick with them, and when you are nasty, that reflects poorly on the community as a whole. So spread the love, give props to your teammates and the killer, rather than shaming someone for something they did poorly. Maybe kindly give them a tip instead, but always remember that what you say and how you interact with people in game will stick with that player for a while, good or bad. Be the change that you want to see. It goes both ways, obviously, for killers and survivors, but I find that, like, when survivors are being incredibly toxic over things like tunneling and camping and stuff like that, this only causes those killer players to do that more, right? They'll do that more because of this experience, because they just want to make you mad or whatever, so this is obviously a big tip. Number 2, don't stay silent. Far too often I have seen players in game being bullied and people don't speak up. Whether it's survivors to the killer, survivors to their teammates, or even the killer to a specific survivor, staying silent while someone is being toxic to another player is enabling this toxic person to persist. So stick up for your teammates who are being bullied or the killer. And this is something that I see all too often, and it is quite frustrating. I've covered videos where teammates are just being so toxic and other people do nothing about it. Like they just, either laugh along or they just stay silent. I've been in streams where people are being toxic and the streamer is just, minding their business, like, oh, it's not a big deal, kind of tuck it under the rug kind of thing. Don't stay silent. Like, speak up and defend people. Like, it's this is a big way that you can have a positive impact on the community. Number 3, if you got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. If you had a really frustrating game, maybe the killer bled you out, hard tunneled you, or camped you and hit on hook, while it can sometimes be hard to not tell the killer or survivors how you feel, remember that being rude to someone does nothing but encourage hateful behavior in the community. So if you got nothing nice to say nothing and move on to the next game. And this is, again, like, this is all too common. It's people, and they just can't keep their mouths closed, and they had a frustrating game and they have to pass that on to somebody else. They have to direct that frustration towards a human being so that they can feel better about themselves. And this is never the way. always try to direct your anger into a way that is constructive, such as, you know, playing the game a little differently, or maybe switching up, maybe switching games entirely, stuff like this. But if you're ever wanting to direct your anger at somebody else, this is not going to help. This is only going to further toxicity in the community, right? Number 4, give props. Did you go against a killer who really impressed you? Let him know. Went against a survivor who was able to loop you for a long time? Let them know. Giving props to players who did well in game is a huge way to spread positivity and encourage players to keep playing. Anytime I play against a TTV and they do exceptionally well, I always try to let them know and drop a follow. The benefit of this too is that you compliment a player who, say, plays more fairly and didn't camp or tunnel. This will encourage them to keep playing this way. So give props as much as you can. And this goes into what I was talking about in the first point there. It's when you encourage and compliment people on playing in a way that was more fun for you, this encourages them to do that more, right? Like if you went against a killer and they didn't camp or tunnel and 12 hooked and spread pressure and were able to win, and you compliment them on that, that's going to make them feel good, and that's going to make them want to keep doing that, right? So rather than, you know, spreading hate over somebody's playstyle that you didn't like, encourage and compliment the ones that you do, and this will help to improve and encourage them to do that more, right? This is a big thing. This is a really big tip, and I highly recommend giving props as much as you can. I know anytime a survivor or a killer comes into my stream and I went against them, I always try to find something that I can compliment them on, so that makes them feel good and they have a positive experience from me, from playing the game with me. And our next and final tip is to give tips, not harsh criticism. Give tips. This is a big tip. This is one that I love to do, and it's never had like a bad reaction at all. Giving tips to other players is huge. Did you go against a killer who is your main? Offer some helpful advice. Maybe you have a build that synergizes with the killer's power, or maybe a strategy to help them more. When I go against a survivor who complains about me tunneling, I suggest they try OTR or DS. Or if they complain about slugging, I suggest Unbreakable or Boon Exponential. Offering advice rather than harsh criticism is a great way to give someone something constructive to take away rather than something negative to dwell on. And this is a big one. And again, anytime that I go against somebody and they come by my stream, I always try to give them something like some form of props for what they did well. And if there wasn't, then I'll try and find a tip, you know, like something to help them and you know, something constructive that this player can focus on. This is a big one. This is a big one. And any of you players who have more experience, you can do this too. Just make sure that you're not doing it in like a condescending way, right? Or in like a harsh way, you know, like calling them bad and telling them to run something else or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. Saying, hey, you did good, maybe try this perk works really well. You know, for example, like I highly recommend Enduring on Spirit. I play a lot of Spirit. I love Spirit. I highly recommend Enduring on her because it is a really nice perk. There's add-ons that synergize with it. So when I go against a Spirit, I'll recommend it to them usually. And I've had people run my builds on Spirit and say that they had a really good time, and And yeah, so this is the final tip here, and this is a really big one, is to give helpful tips in a positive way. So that's all the main tips. Are there any other tips that you guys can think of how we all can help to make the DBD a more positive community? If you can think of any other ways, please let me know down in the comments, and let's brainstorm a little bit. And as always, I really appreciate you guys watching, and all the support really means a lot to me. If you aren't subbed already, be sure to do that. And follow me on Twitch. I go live 4 or 5 times a week over there, and would love to see you over there. But as always, spread the love, spread the positivity, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace out.